Hi everyone, Kara Lovehart here, and I am doing a live today because one of the most common questions that we get asked is what type of service or product do I need when it comes to my own holistic health or wellness journey? It seems that people get really overwhelmed. And specifically here at Firefly Hollow, we have so many different types of services to choose from, and we're just at one location, one clinic right here in South Central PA. So, what about all the other places in your local area? Or what about online? So, in this video today, I want to talk a little bit about, in general, tips for supporting your wellness journey and helping you discern what the best methodology or the best point of action would be for you. So, if you are live with us today, I encourage you to ask questions. And of course, if you are not live, you're watching the recording, please feel free to pop something in the comments as well. So, the first questions, again, the first tip I'm going to give out is how to identify what your current wellness goals or values are. So when someone gives us a call, and by the way, we have free consultations. You can always call us and set up a phone consultation to help you figure out what services you need as far as Firefly Hollow goes. And a lot of times we'll even throw in there local people that we recommend. Again, we don't want to waste our time because it's very precious and valuable, and we don't have a lot of openings sometimes. So we want to say, okay, this is definitely what your values are and what your goals are. Let's kind of get it down to that. So, in general, sometimes people don't know what their goals are, right? They're like, I don't even know where to start. I'm feeling tired. I feel like my mood is low. I feel that my weight is high. I feel disconnected from my spirituality or my creativity, or I'm having some relationship challenges around my finances. These are all things from a holistic perspective we would address when it comes to life coaching, holistic counseling, body work for pain, nutrition for diet and wellness, movement for physical exercise, or movement for helping alleviate pain. Again, there's so many avenues to address your physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, all mind, body, spirit, full spectrum of things. So where do you start? So we usually ask the question, what would you be doing with your life if you had all the time, money, love, resources, you know, motivation and confidence to do whatever you want to be doing? And that's a kind of a coaching question. And we ask that because a lot of times if people don't know where to start, because maybe they're overwhelmed with so many things that they feel are wrong in their life, we want to help and give you the perspective based on that question of what would you be doing if you didn't have the limitations that you feel you are perceiving or you do have right now in your life. So that can help, that question itself can help narrow down what your particular goals might be. Another question we might ask is, what is it the thing that you know that you've been avoiding for the longest time that feels like it's racking up in your life, that's starting to affect your quality of life? Maybe you are on burnout and you've been working a lot, and due to that burnout, your physical health, your mental health, your social health, whatever is being affected by that. And you might say, well, I want to lose weight. I want to work on weight loss. But what if the root of the problem is, the weight is on from emotional eating or from eating on the go, or there's other potential root causes or reasons, whether it's something that a doctor can address, or within the holistic field, any functional doctors or any holistic psychotherapists or coaches. Again, we have so many different full spectrum of services, but it's asking that question of, what is it the thing that really is needing addressed the most? That if you could knock out the biggest puzzle piece in your life, what would it be? So is it related to Maslow's hierarchy of needs? It's making sure that you have food and shelter and safety and belonging. Like, those are some things that some people don't even have those yet. So we would refer people to resources to get that stuff straightened out before you can be a little bit more successful at sticking to something that might support your health and longevity in the long run. So when it comes to your values, that's another thing that we'll ask, because if you have specific values in your life, like you value your time, maybe you value your freedom, maybe you value your health, or maybe right now in your life, you're really valuing your relationships. Not that you could say you value one thing the most, because you might have three things that you value the most in your life. Like maybe your children, you value them. Maybe you value your time with yourself, and maybe you value your career. So maybe those are three things that are equally as important to you. But if you can narrow down what your values are, chances are you're going to be able to then have more motivation behind those particular things. So if someone's saying to me, I value my personal development right now, I know that I'm doing really well in my career, and I'm just, I'm maybe self-sabotaging a little bit at this time, and I actually could get to this next rung, and then that would support my freedom, my finances, and more time with my family and other things that maybe that person values. So in that circumstance, we would recommend doing some sort of business coaching and working with either ourselves or someone else that we would refer you to. And we also ask questions more so about what your values are, okay, when it comes to your own personal belief system, when it comes to what are the things that you find most important in your logic or your worldview. Because when it comes to some sort of personal development, it could be you could focus in your personal development in a spiritual way, right? You could focus in your mindset, right? And your personal development, you could focus on behaviors or executing structure in your personal life or your business life that would create more of a framework or set you up for success in a particular area. And also training. So it really is something when it comes to identifying what your next steps are. Narrow it down to what is it your specific wellness goals are. What do you want to address first? And again, if you ever call us, if you're dropping on now, we will ask you these questions on the phone for a free consultation. Say, what is it that you value the most in your life right now? What are you most passionate about? Because chances are you're going to have the motivation and the energy to start and see through something you have the most passion for. If you're feeling like, okay, I need to lose weight now, or I need to work on my physical movement because you feel like you just should, because that's the healthy thing to do, chances are you're not going to have the motivation to go and see through with it. So for my own journey, 260 pounds was my highest weight, and losing weight in my journey, food changes was not the first thing that I did. On my own journey, it was mindset and working on self-love and time with myself. And that created a unconscious foundation for building behaviors that support over time eating better, taking better care of myself, because the core belief and core focus was caring and loving for myself. And so that wasn't the first thing. And I would have sabotaged and failed over and over and over again if food and diet were something that was a priority. It became a priority for me. Let's talk about values. An example here, it became a priority for me because I valued not feeling like I was in pain and having inflammation in my body. So my journey to going gluten-free and dairy-free and sugar-free wasn't because it's the right way to be, because people who are healthy are the people that do it that way. It was more so that this is what was right for my body based on some testing and based on trial and error. And that's what I decided to do. And it was something that took 10 years of a journey of getting into that space and one by one figuring out what are the things that make me feel really, really good. So identifying your current wellness goals and values is the first step to identifying what products or holistic services are right for you on your journey. The second tip, we identify what type of service or product to start with. Okay. So if you identify that right now, I'm feeling creatively blocked. I don't feel like I have a spark or feel like I'm connected to my life purpose or some sort of spiritual undertones, that there is something supporting me in my life. If someone's identifying that that's where their block is through the questions we ask when we do an intake or a consult on the phone, then we would look at, okay, what are the services that we know of in our clinic, in our local area? And again, we want to provide you with the best practitioner, because sometimes we know that maybe we have a spiritually based practitioner, maybe an intuitive reader, or maybe someone who's our holistic coach, Tom Noonan, or he's a psychotherapist, or Candy. And maybe we know based on talking with you that your belief system, your personality may not be a good fit with that person. If you can't create that therapeutic dynamic, that particular service at our location may not be a good fit. And we want to find someone that will work for you long term. Same thing with products. So a lot of times we refer people locally here to the Safe and Sweet Keto Bakery when they're first cutting out sugar, because we don't want you to go through a taking away all these things that are delicious and then feeling like you're depriving yourself, because that doesn't create sustainability in your health and wellness journey, especially when you're focusing on food and maybe sugar is that thing you're wanting to get rid of. So that's a product and a retailer that we support, because that gives you a lot of options and they're delicious. And of course, Laura, we love you at Safe and Sweet. We're big fans. But again, if you don't feel that you're in alignment with maybe a particular philosophy or how the business is run, if you have a particular different worldview, you may be better off going to a different company or something like that. And it's something that's really interesting, because like there's so many different fast food companies, right? And we kind of have this thing we're not aware of, that we psychologically are being sold to from marketing. There's people that do full-time marketing in their career in supporting the product or the business that they work with and being the most successful by identifying you as a type of person and what type of things you would buy based on your history, based on your story, based on your identity. So there is a certain type of individual or demographic that shops at Target versus shops at Walmart, right? So it's something that, from a perspective of success, for me as a coach, I want to identify who the person is that we're working with, from not a place of judgment, from understanding who are you and what is the best way for you, so that we can help you find a product or service that would really be successful for you, because it lines up with your values and who you believe you are at that time. So identifying type of service or product to start with. If you're really, again, needing to work with your physical health, when it comes to the physiological health, functional medicine, blood panels, blood panel work or blood analysis, working with a nutritional therapist, working with a physical therapist or someone that does physical manual therapy, like a chiropractor, a physical therapist assistant, a personal trainer, a body worker, someone skilled in therapeutic type massage, not necessarily like the spa-based relaxation, because there is a medically based trained massage therapist, which most of our therapists at Firefly are. So we're focusing on looking at the structure of the body, where muscles are shortened, where those might be causing pain, and then working with that with the chiropractic care as well. But again, that's just if you have the physical aspect of your health that needs to be addressed, because that could go into supplementation or things physically that are causing the stress. But if you're looking at more emotional component, what service or product to start with? There's so many. But of course, we always recommend counseling. I am one that am a huge mental health advocate, and I think that we don't talk about it enough, that I think everyone should have a counselor, and a good counselor that you connect with and that you drive with, but also tools for managing emotional stress and maybe either healing trauma or working with things that have happened in your life. And maybe it's just the everyday stress that you're dealing with, stress and anxiety or sleep issues that start to come up from our culture. So yoga, Reiki, massage therapy, cranial sacrotherapy, reflexology, all these tools to help the nervous system downregulate and to relax. And then things like breath work or yoga or things you can do at home, trainings that our therapist or a good therapist that you work with can give you options for, so that you can learn to self-regulate yourself and manage your stress as well as working with a counselor. So those are the emotional things that I would say for services or products. I mean, I could go into so many products that are supportive for mental, emotional health. And in the perspective of downregulation of the nervous system, oh, we love our herbal allies. So many different herbs that are so, like, just even locally that are supportive. And I'm not an herbalist, but I refer people to them to support using herbs in that way if it's appropriate for them. Essential oils are like an easy, non-toxic way to take advantage of the olfactory nerve in our nose to have that downregulate and relax our nervous system, or stimulate it if you're feeling like you need that. Sometimes people use different types of essential oils to get off of caffeine to support kind of upregulating them when they feel tired. So there's a lot of options there. Service or product when it comes to, so we had talked about physical, emotional, and then like the spiritual aspect of things. That's when we connect into what we believe is our higher power. Our purpose, our meaning, sense of who we are and why we're here. Those are really important factors. I think they're driving factors for some individuals as to why we have depression, as well as loneliness and disconnection in our world. But I think there are a lot of factors that go into that. Even your physiological, your background, your genetics can contribute to depression. But in general, if you have this lack of connection to spirituality, having an extraordinary experience with a good quality intuitive professional, or maybe a energy healer, a Reiki practitioner, someone that's working with the subtle energy body, that's something I think is like really profound. And especially if you find someone that's trustworthy to experience that with. And we'll talk about that here in the next couple minutes. All right. Any questions, please put them in the chat. All right. So what type of wellness resources? Oh, got the wrong question here. Tips on finding the best option for you. So this is the local or online. I get this question a lot because there's so much to choose from. So if you are new to holistic wellness and you're not sure what practitioner to choose, let's just get an example here. You want to go see a nutritionist. Okay, there are so many different types of nutritionists. Ones that are have gone through a full program and can work in hospital settings. And these are for specific types, like a dietitian. So they're working with someone that maybe is going through cancer or have issues with their stomach, and they have to get a certain type of calories or certain types of foods they cannot eat for their livelihood. So there is for their health and wellness. The dietitians and nutritionists are a little bit different, and there's so many different. There's like a whole spectrum of different types, and that confuses people. So just like in any field, you're going to have people that feel that their way of doing it is better. And I will tell you right now that if you ever meet a practitioner that says that, even a doctor, there is definitely better treatments, more effective treatments scientifically from a research perspective than others. But when it comes to a personality, a bedside manner of a practitioner that you're seeing, I always say it's kind of something that is a pet peeve of mine. If someone says or downplays something that you've done or something you're trying, and versus being curious and asking questions and saying, well, no, my way's better, or you shouldn't go to that type of nutritionist. They're not what you need. They can educate you on what that person's trained on. Again, because there's so many letters behind people's names. You're like, what does this mean? What does nutritional therapy practitioner mean versus nutritional therapist? What about a functional medicine, nutritionist? What is that? Versus someone that has gone to the Institute for Integrative Nutritional Healing. There are so many different types of schools and programs out there. And what I usually look for when I'm looking for a new practitioner, let's talk about it in one aspect for nutrition, I would go out and look at the different types of letters that's behind someone's name. I would research them, look them up, and I would ask them questions about their training. I would ask them questions about what type of clients they work with, how long they've been doing it, and the success stories that they've had. I had someone recently that applied for our expo, and this person asked questions about how many people come through our show. They wanted to know demographics. And I thought those were really good questions because there's a lot of holistic expos that are opening up. And the New Visions one is 22 years in operation. And this person travels a far amount of time, and she wants to make sure that we aren't just giving her all these bells and whistles and smoke and mirrors, and that you should come to our event because it's great. Of course, I'm biased. It's great. But I gave her 6 different of our vendors that have been with us the whole 22 years that have been at the event. And I said, hey, reach out to these people. They can verify and consult with you about the quality of our event, the people that come through. And then I can share with you where people come from all over and what locations they're coming from. So I think it's good to ask for references. That's an example of being a vendor at an expo, but I think that you should ask those things because there are people that maybe just get done their training. And there's a lot of overcompensation for the imposter syndrome that happens with most practitioners. And this even happens with doctors. I remember one of the podcasts I did with Dr. John Neustadt, we were talking about why doctors aren't as supportive of holistic modalities, and not from a perspective of judgment, but more from a perspective of like lack of understanding or education. And then we talked more about the imposter syndrome that doctors have because they're expected to know so much and their training was so vigorous. and they feel like they're not able to let anyone down. So a lot of times, if you do question something that they don't know, you can get a reaction from a doctor. And this isn't just doctors, but this is anyone that's new to their field, even massage therapy or Reiki or psychotherapy. If you can ask a question and the practitioner can give you an answer and say to you with a straight face, I don't know if I know the answer to that, but let me find out for you, versus overcompensating and trying to pretend they know all the things. That's a big deal. So when you're looking for someone locally or online to be a practitioner, interview them, ask them about their credentials, their training, how long they have done it, who they have worked with. Can you connect directly with clients that they have worked with or seen reviews for them? And asking them things like, if the things are important to you, and I will probably go into this in another live here, specifically when it comes to working with intuitive professionals, Reiki and intuitive arts, because I'm a psychic medium, we don't have a license. There's no professional license there for us for state. Okay. So there's not really any oversight, and there's not really any harm reduction placed in the structure of making sure that there's not people who are just being a charlatan and wanting to take your money. So it's a big pet peeve of mine to educate people about how to find a legit and accurate and professional intuitive psychic or whatever, reader, whatever you want to call. It's important to find out the questions or get the answers to the questions up front, because there is unfortunately a unconscious and sometimes conscious misuse of the power differential or the power dynamics between a client and an intuitive professional. So I'll go into that in a separate episode about that. But I think in general, if you ask your practitioner you're looking to work with, give you the resources, where did they get their training, how long they've been doing it, who do they work with, what are their success stories, and do some research and ask around. And I think that really goes and says it all. I will say one more thing. If you are looking online for somebody that is a professional of some sort in the holistic field, and you're basing their validity off of how many followers or people they have that like or subscribe to their channel or whatever, go a little bit deeper. Ask questions a little bit deeper. There is ways that you can purchase followers, or you can have people that maybe are following that individual that don't have the best discernment and don't ask questions. Again, I see a lot of misuse and abuse, unfortunately, in the intuitive arts realm, more so, of these power differentials of really having a parasitic dynamic of give me your money, I'll tell you when you're going to find your soulmate, or weird things like that, that I just find repulsive. And I find it's something that is just not for me. It's not a preference for me. Within any events that we put on, I'm very specific and very discerning with the type of practitioners that I choose to work with in my clinic, and I choose to refer people to. And anything like that, if there's some sort of dynamics where you see within the organization or the practitioner that is having weird power differentials with their followers, where they are saying, oh my gosh, like, I am just like the most amazing channeler, or I talked to this higher power that directly told me to tell you this. And we also have an episode we did on the podcast I'll share in the comments here later, on making sure that you don't have a private, personal, direct message to you of someone saying that I'm sensing that you need a psychic reading from me, or hey, dear love beam or moonbeam or starlight, or some sort of weird spiritual, I will say, the spiritual language that is used that is trying to make things sound fluffy and love and light and just so beautiful. That's a big red flag of lack of discernment with when it comes to being trauma informed, lack of discernment when it comes to respecting boundaries of someone else, and lack of potential ability to be grounded and anchored in the physical dimension of rules and boundaries versus the spiritual connection. And as a medium, this is a huge pet peeve of mine, and no judgment against someone who's doing that, who's unaware, because a lot of times, again, there's no training for these unlicensed professional things. So it's okay. But making sure you do some discernment for yourself to not waste your money or your time, and making sure that you are supporting these amazing people out there in the full spectrum of holistic services that want to help, that want to do it with an integrity, that want to not, take your money without results, and want to help you. So the last question I have that most people ask. So we did tips for identifying your current values and goals, tips for identifying which type of service or product to start with, tips on finding the best option for you, local or online, and tips for discerning the quality of professionals, providers. The last thing I will say, if you value supporting local businesses, which I do, of course, as a local business owner, make sure that if you have something that you could potentially find online that you could find in your local hometown, look for it, access it. It could be a local product like home-based soap product or shampoo or natural product line of some sort or supplement company. Could be, food. It could be any sort of health, wellness service provider, but look for them locally. But I will also say this, depending on where you're located, if the local practitioner or retail company or product line you're looking for doesn't feel that it's up to a standard that meets your values or whatever it is that you're feeling like you're looking for, don't say that you have to just settle for that. I think that so often we will just say, okay, well, this is just good enough because it's all I have in my local area. With the online resource that we have, we can access people from so many places all around the world. And part of my journey was doing that, of seeking a coach for as a business owner. I needed someone who was a medium as well, so that they understood the reality of being highly intuitive as a professional, but also the reality of doing business and your accounting and like boundaries and business laws and things like that. And having someone be balanced in both, someone that wasn't just gonna, read my aura and tell me these things, but like also help me, guide me in the direction as a business owner. And I couldn't find that here locally. And so I had to go online and find that, but I'm glad I did it because I didn't settle for something that was just what happened to be here, even though I have some people that I love and I mentored with and shadowed with for years that I loved and supported them. It was time for me to find something that was what I was looking for. So anyhow, that is my tips today for supporting finding the best local practitioners, service providers, and products. And when all else fails, if you followed all the steps to, okay, what are my values? What are my goals? What are the products I need to start with based on what have I been sleeping under the rug longest? What is the most bang for my buck? I'm going to address my physical health right now because that's the biggest thing that's been lurking over me. And I'm, even if you have all the feels through it of the anxiety or the stress about it or the unknown, all the things that come up when it comes to change, when you have that right support system that can guide you through that. But if you've done all those things and you've discerned the background of the practitioner, who they've worked with, gotten references and referrals, then the last thing I always say is to trust your gut. If there is something that still does not feel right about the person, I had a couple people that referred to a local functional medicine doctor in the area. Again, I will never mention names, just to remain in integrity, but the doctor was supposed to be a very good doctor. And they went to see him, and every time they would go see him, he wanted to sell them a book or a new program or a new supplement that he had gotten. And it felt to them over time, this is about 3 or 4 of the local community clients that had found that person and was telling me, you should go see this person. And then over time, they were saying to me that they felt that every time they went to see him, he just was trying to sell them more things. Another fancy program that who is a elite doctor who does all these things and letters behind his name. There was a lot of peacocking, I guess, the way like with showing your peacock feathers, like I do all these things. And it was just more of, again, having compassion for that. We are all human. It does not matter how many letters you have behind your name, how many trainings you've had, even if you have a PhD, that you can still have issues potentially in your own integrity. Because of life circumstances or things that have come up. You can have your own blind spots or your own trauma as a healer, as a practitioner. This is why I am passionate about helping the wounded healers become more of a light leader and following their own journey to healing versus getting lost in their own wounds and projecting it upon their practitioner, their clients. This is really common. And I think it's something to know about. Long time ago, I wasn't aware that a lot of psychotherapists had a lot of their own wounds and issues. And a lot of times people go into that field to help themselves. And there are amazing, amazing practitioners I've met now. Like I can't even I wish I would have known better at that time that I can actually request someone different if I felt that they were not professional or something didn't feel right in my gut and I just didn't feel that they were the right person for me. And not from a place of judgment, just from a discernment for me and my value. And at the time, I didn't know that there was a lot of that happening in the healing realm, not just doctors and nurses and psychotherapists, Reiki practitioners, anyone who's out there to heal and help other people. There is this thing that you sometimes get called to help. and you get called to help from a place of your own internal wound, which is a beautiful place to start. Because if you've had something happen in your life and you then get called because you've seen the suffering of animals, you get called to help and support and heal animals or work with an animal rescue, for example, right? That's the wound, that's the suffering, that's the empathic sense of, oh my gosh, I want to help. But what happens sometimes, whether it's helping animals or helping children or helping people with their mental health, what tends to happen, it absolutely can turn into, I don't take care of myself as a caretaker or as a healer. And then I end up projecting my own things, or there's a lot of potential psychological transference that happens where I think that, there's this thing that happens. We can go into that, and I can share some more podcast episodes that we did with Ali Kokert of Root Growth 5 on healing trauma, and with burnout as well. We did a really cool episode on that. But I just feel like it's important, more important in this day and age after 2020, when we all went through a collective trauma and we all want to, of course, we had this awakening experience where we wanted to help people. And I think we need more people than ever at this time to help. But we want to be aware consciously from what foundation or which we are helping from a place of, I want to help everyone else and not help myself. And that is a pretty potentially a place to be acting from with caution, because if you're doing that and you're aware of that, or you're unaware of that, there is sometimes unintentional harm, like this doctor who's like, I'm trying to sell you all the things. Who knows what was going on financially with him, or from a space of he doesn't feel good enough as a person. Maybe he's overcompensating by wanting to sell all these things that he feels are like the best. And maybe they were the best things, but the harm, the unintentional harm that it caused the trust of that relationship with these 3 clients that had been going to see him, they felt like they found the person, and then all of a sudden they're just trying to sell to them, or, trying to take advantage of the therapeutic dynamic that they had created. So that is my thing for today. If you have more questions, let me know. Next week, I am going to speak on which diet is really healthy. A lot of people, again, their first thing is, hey, I want to go and do some sort of holistic service. Where do we go find people? What's the best people to find? Should I do them local or online? Whatever. That's the biggest questions we get. And so then the next question is, okay, when it comes to physical diet and stuff, what is the best diet? What is really, truly healthy? So that's what I'll be talking about next Wednesday. Again, if you have any further questions, please submit them in the comments, or even after the live here, you can put them in the comments so I can ask them for the future. If you're interested in checking it out, fireflyhollowwellness.com, you can always go on there and schedule a free consultation, and we're happy to help you and direct you to the people in the area. My biggest passion is community and connection in this particular area in York, Pennsylvania. And so we have a Holistic Connections Facebook group. You can join that. And that's where we are connecting people with trusted and vetted practitioners that we cross promote to each other. We don't always necessarily have the same belief systems. We may have different backgrounds and philosophies for our businesses, but we have this common value of, we want to support each other. We want to give people resources and education to make the best decisions for themselves. Not creating any polarization within our, personal beliefs or whatever. We keep that out of our businesses, and we want to make sure that we're giving people across all spectrum of demographics and political views and their religious views, giving them all the resources that they can make the best decision for them, for their own health and wellness journey. So you can check that out. Check out some of our collaborators like at Farmers Market, Horn Farm, Safe and Sweet Keto Bakery, the Psychedelic Society, the Sweet Botanist. And then of course, you'll see more of our collaborators on there as well, posting some of their upcoming events and things that you can tap into here if you're local to Central PA. But other than that, have a great one, guys, and be well until next week. I'll see you then.